and welcome to another episode of Quoth the Raven. I'm your host, Louis Brad Raven. This is episode 3 or 5, depending on how you look at it. Return of the Kids Comics. And how are you doing tonight? I hope you all are doing well this week. We had a little bit of a situation last Indie Vault appearance. I don't know where we're going there, but for tonight, we will be doing questions, talking about more kids' comics as a continuance from last week's show. And if we have time, I'll go into a Raven Rant as well, which I know some fans have been asking for. Apparently, they like it when I get hot under the collar. I don't know exactly why, but they do. Now, since we're going to get right on to it, let's see what we got here for questions. And let's see what we have. Our first question of the night is from Mike in Michigan. This is the same one who asked me from last week about kids' comics. Last week, you talked about a bunch of independent comics that were geared for children in all ages. I noticed that you didn't mention anything published by DC or Marvel, though. Is that because you are anti-DC, anti-Marvel? Or is it because these publishers aren't doing anything that is for said audiences? Well, I'm not really anti-Marvel, anti-DC in that respect. It's more, and it's not that they're not doing product. They have been doing product. I'm just not reading it necessarily, but I'll talk about that a little bit later. Since this evening, when we get into the kids' books, we'll talk about what Marvel and DC have been offering as of late and in the past. And because they certainly aren't completely discouraging creators or doing anything that would block young audiences to come into the medium. It's just that I don't think that they're marketed as well. And again, we'll talk more about that in just a little while. So our next question. TJ asks, why are you on Indie Vault? You keep getting mad at the others, and they clearly do not respect you. Isn't that why you launched this channel? You should tear them a new one. Well, this is very much about what happened Tuesday night. No, I should not tear them a new one, especially not Varian. Varian's the one who runs Indie Vault, and it's not an issue with it. It's not an issue with Varian. It's something else, and I'm not going to get into that here. Either it will get resolved privately or it won't, and I don't know where that's going right now. But it's a situation where people want to measure their experience, so to speak, and they want just some people want to play games about whose experience matters more, and or when you did what, or how long ago it was, or whatever. And it's it's rather childish, and I'm kind of tired of it. So that's what that's about more than anything else. Our next question. Is, can you show more of your printed works from Chris M? Well, I'm looking for some stuff. I'm digging through the archives to find content that I think would be something I want to share. Unfortunately, a lot of my stuff that was printed in the 90s and early 2000s is lost due to moving. Some of my comics collection went missing in the move, and that included almost all of my creator-owned material that I had published in the 90s, and I don't have the files anymore. So it's very difficult because I pretty much sold out of my stuff. I'm not like some people who have basements full of their stuff for 20 years. But hold on a second. Just had a quick message from someone. Okay. Thank you, Sean Ortega, for the hello. That was not a message here on the channel. It was on Facebook. But anyway. So as soon as I find some stuff, though, I will certainly share it with the audience, as well as start sharing some of the new projects I'm working on as I'm working on them. Our next question is anonymous. I heard you're anti-retailer. What's that about? You don't want the retailers to go out of business, do you? No, I'm not anti-retailer. What I am is critical of retailers who seem to think that it is all up to the publishers and creators to market everything so that all they have to do is order it, sit back, and collect the money as the customers come into the store. My view is that retailers have to be the marketing representatives in their own local communities to the general population and market our art form, and that is without exclusion to anybody's titles that you're going to carry. Whoever you carry, you have to equally support them to a point of profitability. You can't just order for pulls and then not put it on the shelf. You can't just not order something because you don't like it or because your customers don't know about it because you didn't carry a lot of previews because it costs too much and your customers don't want to pay for previews. You have to market the stuff if you want it to sell. And if you're not marketing, you're not going to sell product, in my opinion. And at least that's what I've seen over the years all across the country. And it's, the same thing with my own books in my own experience. When I have not been full force press court marketing, the books sit. If I'm marketing them really hard and going out and doing things, they move. It may take a while, but they do move. And, but if you don't market, what's the point? And that's what I'm saying with the problem with the retailers and a lot of retailers have an attitude that that's not their responsibility. It's all us, the creators and the publishers. They'll say stuff like, well, why can't you take an advertisement out on television for us and go 1-800 Comic Shop and put it on the Flash TV show or Legends of Tomorrow TV show or Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.? Well, it's funny. My local CW network goes to Steve FM in Casey, South Carolina, which is a suburb of Columbia, South Carolina, 96.7 FM. And all the time I'm hearing commercials for the TV episodes of The Flash and Legends. But I don't see any comic book shops locally going to the CW and saying, hey, how about we split the proceeds on that advertising you did on that radio and give me an extra 10, 15-second blurb to say, hey, and if you like that, what you see on the TV, come to my comic shop, and here's the phone number and the address of the store. That, to me, is what you need to be doing. Now, I don't know if that's going to work or not for you. CW or whoever is marketing the TV show might say that's not possible. But if you're not even going to be willing to try and you think it's up to them to help you that way, it's an ecosystem. You got to work together, not separate. And if you're not willing to, you can't just have it glad handed to you. You got to go see if they'll do it. And if they won't, then okay, it's on them. But if you don't make the effort to reach it out, branch out. Mm-mm. And so it's stuff like that that makes me critical of retailers, but it's not anti-retailer per se. Our next question. Sorry about that. Too many buttons. Is from Debbie in Michigan. When is the next live draw? I like the Spacey piece you did, and I want to see more of that character and the robot guy, Larry. Well, thank you, Debbie. I appreciate that. I don't know when the next live draw is yet. It probably sometime next week. Got some other things I need to do. My father's been sick, recovering from fall, and like 2 to 4 days a week we've been going to rehab and doing other things. And it's hard to prep for this show and then try to prep for a live draw as well. But yeah, I know I need to get into that again, and I will. I promise. Next one's probably going to be one of Larry, with a little bit of history on Larry, Livewire, the robot character. And as far as Spacey goes, we'll talk about that stuff a little bit more, and hopefully I can find some of the back comics from that, so that we're seeing some of that work as well from when I was working on it in the 90s, and we can see the progression of my work and other things like that. But I have to find copies of this stuff if I can. And if you folks up in Michigan, around Mount Pleasant, Saginaw, Bay City, Ann Arbor, Lansing, Kalamazoo, check your comic shops. Look in the back issue bins. Look for Spacey, the alien. Look for Supreme 6, Komodo, Ryo Yoshindo, Komodo the Dragon. Look for all that old stuff that I did in the back issues. I presume that somebody traded them in somewhere, when they bought them. But if you find them, and send me photos of it, or if you find it and you don't like it, mail it to me. I'll pay you for them, and because I'd like to have it so I can smack some people upside the head with them. We'll do some live draws probably next week. Next question. How come you don't Raven Rant like you used to? That was one of the things I enjoyed when you used to do the column back in the day. Well, Anonymous. Yeah. Well, part of the reason I haven't really wanted to do a Raven Rant was because I'm trying to be far more positive than I was. I was much more critical of the industry when I was doing the column at the time, because there was a lot of bad things going on in the 90s and early 2000s in the industry. And I was pretty much trying to point them out a lot. And that meant a lot of negativity and, stuff that some people appreciated it and understood why I was doing it. Apparently Anonymous is one of those, but there's a lot of people who didn't like me doing it too. And whether or not that burned bridges for me as a creator, it probably did on some level. I don't know for sure. But no one's ever said it, but it's been implied enough, I guess. So that's part of it. And in this format, I'm trying to be more positive. But yeah, there are going to be some Raven Rants eventually, and possibly even tonight. So I don't know how far it'll go. I don't know how heated it's going to get, because I don't have anybody here to egg me on, so to speak. I guess you could say it's a good terminology. So, but we'll do something with that soon enough, I guess. So yeah. Mm-hmm. Next question is from Kevin T. in Chicago, Illinois. Hello again, Kevin. What's your biggest regret as a comics creator? Wow. um, that's a heck of a question. Um, Maybe sticking up, holding up, standing beside people that, in retrospect, maybe didn't deserve it. Um, Trusting people to do the right thing, and when they screwed me over, they screwed me over. You know, people who I've helped in their careers without anything, asking for anything in return, who have in turn basically either denied that I assisted them or whatever, but out of fear or out of coercion from other people in the business that don't like me or want to hold me down. So they're like, well, if you acknowledge that this person did something for you, we're gonna, crap on your career and block your career, type thing. Maybe if I don't want to say if I'd been more selfish and more self-serving rather than trying to do things for other people, but in a way, I guess, I don't know, but it's that kind of a thing for me as far as regrets in the business is that things that I've done um, are often dismissed as not um, worthy contributions or whatever. And it makes me wonder if I should have even made the effort to help others and just focused on my own works. That's about the gist of it. Next question. There's another one from another anonymous source. Are you ever going to a Kickstarter? It's supposed to be to do. I was typing too fast, apparently. Are you ever going to do a Kickstarter or Patreon or Indiegogo campaign? Let's see here. Um, there we go. Sorry, I didn't realize it hadn't been showing. Yeah, there you go. I suppose I might. I mean, I've got a Patreon page. I don't really know what I want to do on that page, though. I might start doing the live draws on the Patreon. I don't know. We'll see. Um, or more pre-recorded shows rather than live shows over on Patreon that I can do a little more focused, shorter stuff because I've been asked by a couple of people who have, well, I won't say I've asked, people have suggested that I do maybe 10 or 15-minute segments as opposed to an hour or more show due to their time limits. And they have time to listen to something or watch something. And that's not a bad idea. So maybe I'll look into that and put that on Patreon or do something. I don't know. As far as Kickstarter or Indiegogo, I'm not sold on those platforms right now. They're decent platforms. There's nothing wrong with them. I'm just right now. It's not what I want to do. But I think there's other methods of getting the product funded than that. But we'll see. If I want to do it that way or something else down the road. But first, I want to have a product that I want to actually market through that platform if I do it. Okay, let's see. Who would another anonymous? I get a lot of anonymous questions this week. A lot of emails. People just didn't want. It's not that they didn't tell me who they were. They just didn't want their names and stuff listed, so they're anonymous. which is fine. You don't have to have your name or place of location where you're from listed here on Quoth the Raven. You can just ask a question. So the question from Anonymous is, who would you hire to clean up DC or Marvel editorially? It can't be you or Zimmerman, meaning Randy Zimmerman, who's one of our regular conspirators over at Indie Volt, or one of Varian's co-conspirators, let's put it that way, not ours. Because as Randy likes to say, who's we, buddy? So I'll just put it that way. Well, frankly, I'm not sure I'd put Randy or myself in charge of DC or Marvel. So, people keep asking me what would I do. I don't want to be in charge of DC or Marvel. I'd rather put people who I think are more appropriate. I mean, it has nothing to do with my personal experience or anything, as much as I just know there's certain people who have a publishing ideology that I agree with more. And I'd rather put them in charge and work with them, maybe on a lower level editorially or something, but I'd rather just be creative and work with them as a creator. But as far as who I would hire for those companies, let's see. Jeff and Ann Vandermeer, Keege Johnson, Maurice Bordeaux, Anthony Cardno, David Elye, Alethea Contis, John Hartness, I'm not sure. Well, there's quite a few of people that I would consider. Ellen Datlow is another one I would consider, and a lot of these people are more known for prose fiction editing and publishing, but some of them have comics experience as well, both in America and overseas. And they all have a love of comics, and they understand the format. And some of them have done some good work for Marvel and Dark Horse and DC in consultant capacities in the past. And I just think that those people would probably do a better job of being more diverse in who they would hire, and give more people a fair and equal opportunity. And I don't think there would be as much redundant content from Marvel and DC under their supervision, in my opinion. I think they'd be more geared towards finding the best content and maybe letting 2 or 3 writers write the book a year. Have people have an arc every quarter or something, but have it written kind of like how TV shows do it, where there's a full arc for the year, but different writers write different episodes or something. But there'd be a writing team or something. I don't know. That might be one approach. There's other approaches. I don't know what people would want to do, and I'm not going to speak on their behalf. But I'm sure all of them could do something positive for Marvel or DC, either one. So that's basically the kind of people I would go for. If you don't know who those people are, pause, reverse, play back when the show's over. Write them down, Google them, learn about who they are. Because I'm not going to sit there and run their accolades down the list, but they're all quite experienced and award-winning editors and publishing people. Next question is from Jim V in California, and no, that is not Jim Valentino of Image Comics. But the question is, if you had the resources, would you launch a new comics company in today's market? In other words, distribute with Diamond to the comics retailers. How might you go about it? Oh, boy. That's a heck of a question. I don't know what you mean by resources, Jim. There's resources and then there's resources. If I had what we used to jokingly refer to as cross-gen money, but I don't want to refer it to as cross-gen money because cross-gen was a bunch of investors who backed out because the gentleman who ran that company, Mark Alessi, couldn't get the licensing deals he wanted for films and stuff. So I wouldn't want to do it that way. I guess the analogy is if I could get a Tony Khan, who is the financier for the new All Elite Wrestling, multi-billionaire who's throwing money to do that. If I could get someone like that to back my play, yeah, then I would probably go through Diamond if I had a couple of $1 million budget a year or something like that. Something that would actually give me an opportunity to hire talent that I think deserves work and pay them a living wage and market them properly, then yeah, I would do that. I'd also consider the possibility of opening up a distribution channel separate from Diamond and heavily marketing that. But as far as, those kind of resources. But other than that, I really don't know because I look at the Diamond system and how broken it is for the majority of publishers, not just single individual independent publishers, but even companies like Image, companies like IDW, Dark Horse Oni, Aftershock, where there's a lot of creator-owned content, but it's not selling in the market. I don't know if that's really the place to be right now. And if you got the money to make it work in that system, maybe. But again, I don't see it as far as that goes. I'm looking more for a structure where we can get a collective of people that could do distribution under a different brand. And there are some other people out there, whether it be Peter Cimetti at Alterna Comics, whether it be other people, Varian trying to put one together himself over there at Indie Volt for distribution. I've dealt with other people who have attempted and failed in the past. Maybe I can find someone else who can attempt and succeed. I don't know. We'll see. But other than that, one step at a time, and that's all I got to say about that right now. Okay. Our next question is, when are you going to invite guests on your show? Just you reviewing and talking alone can be dull. I like the argument you get into on Indie Volt. Yeah. Again, I guess people like controversy or whatever. Controversy sells, folks. What can I tell you? I can't say exactly when I'm going to invite guests on the show. I'm looking to. I'm hoping that when I get into the next theme where we cover women creators, I'll be able to invite some women creators on the show, but I don't want to commit to that until I've got some people who are committed to appearing. There's a lot of people that I've wanted to bring on to Indie Volt who have been hesitant because of people butting heads. So, I need to talk to them and, reassure them that that's not the same format on this channel and see if they'll come on. And hopefully they will. Mm-hmm. So when that happens, and it might not necessarily be the women. There's other people that I've reviewed over on Indie Volt channel, like Armand Villavert and Mark Andrew Smith for Gladstone School for World Conquerors. I'm hoping to get them on the show and do a thing with them as well. So there's that as well. Again, I apologize for leaving the camera on the question, not on me. Not that you need to look at my ugly mug. But yeah, there are people I want to show. So we'll see. But, I'd like to get the people I want to interview and discuss not just comics, but, I want to get into some science fiction, fantasy fiction, and maybe even introduce you to some of the people I was just talking about for editors and stuff and creators. Maybe we'll talk about their books and let you see about that stuff too. There's a lot of cool, entertaining content out there, not just in comics. And this is not just supposed to be about comics. It just has been so far, but we're going to get into other entertainment as well. So we'll do that. So we'll get there. It just this is only the third or fifth episode. Just give me a little bit of time. We'll get some people on here. Next question. Well, I guess that was our last question. So if you have questions, you can email them to Quoth the Raven, LBR 72 at gmail.com, subject QTR questions. Please indicate whether you want your name and locale read on air, or you can be anonymous, or you can be, Jack Jones from Joplin, Missouri, or whatever. I don't know. But as long as it's not some silly, something rude, we'll do our best to oblige and answer any questions you may have. So let's see what we got here. We're going to start with Mike's talk about the reviews. And I am surprised here that I do not have a certain thing on my drive. Interesting. Okay, no problem. Just give me a second. I will find what I need to find. Okay, there we go. There we go. As he says, reviews, comics, books, music, TV, and film. We're going to start getting into that a little bit. But as I said to Michael, or Mike earlier, we need to discuss some of this stuff. So we're going to talk about some of that reviews with DC. We're going to start with Batman and Robin Adventures, Volumes 1 and 2, trade paperback collections. The publisher, of course, is DC Comics. And the writers were Paul Dini and Ty Templeton. The artists were Ty Templeton, Rick Burkett, Brandon Cruz, Mike Parobeck, Terry Austin, Joe Staten, Dev Madden, and various others. John Lewis Superhero, and the release was in 2016 and 2017. Ages 7 and up. These particular volumes are usually listed at $19.99 each. But I'm going to tell you, you can probably go to Ollie's super savings store and find these for like $2 to $5. Or you can find them at discounts at comic shops if they got overstock on them, and they probably should if they're any good at their job. What it's about? Well, as I say, simply put, this is Batman done right. This is your perfect gateway comic for the characters, to introduce these characters to younger readers. The stories are not dumbed down. In my opinion, the series sports the best Batman writing in comics, period, for the last 15 or 20 years. Unfortunately, because it is the animated style based on the old um, 90s Batman cartoon that was designed by Bruce Timm, it's often overlooked because of the art style, and a lot of adults are like, "Well, I don't want to read the kiddie comic," you know. But it's kind of silly because it's really the best stories you're going to find with Batman, in my opinion. And here are some of the arts from that. In the first image, you can see Batman is actually confronting Selena Kyle, which in the, as you may or may not know, that's Catwoman. Uh, I know most of you have seen her having dark hair in recent times, but back in the animated series, she was a blonde. So they're using that model for this particular comic. And then another image was Poison Ivy capturing Robin and setting her up uh, and putting Robin under her spell with her kiss and stuff like that. And here's another couple of pinups that you can see. The first page is art by Rick Burkett, and the next second page is by Brandon Cruz. Uh, both of them written by Ty Templeton. And, it's nice, clean artwork, well colored, well presented. And this is why I like this kind of content. This is, I wish that the writer, Ty Templeton, got to do these kind of stories for the regular Batman storylines with some of the more, I guess you could say, more popular, modernized artists, I guess, for the regular book. I think it would really help the title. But, I don't know if they don't seem to hold the same editorial purview on the two books. So maybe it wouldn't work. I don't know. Another example of a good quality comic book Legion of Superheroes in the 31st Century, Tomorrow's Heroes, trade paperback. This was published in 2008 by DC Comics. This was based on the short-lived Legion of Superheroes cartoon that aired around the same time. The writers were Jay Torres, Scott Beatty, Christine Boylan, and Jai Nitz. I know Jai Nitz. Some of you who are comics fans may remember there was some controversy later on in Jai Nitz's career. I'm going to be honest with you. If you're going to hold not buying a book because of someone said or did something wrong, I can respect that to some degree, but when it's one writer out of like 4 or 5, you're not going to support the others because the other person happened to be assigned a book, that's kind of low. So I wouldn't not buy this just because he happened to write part of the stories. The artists are Sanford Green, Alexandra Serra, Nathan Massengill, China Clugston, Steve Oy, and Ethan Beavers. And yes, that is his real name. Genre is superhero adventure, science fiction. And again, this is Adventures of Superboy and his friends in the Legion of Superheroes. And it is based on the animated series from the 2000s. A good introduction to the Legion characters for kids and adults alike, so that you won't feel overwhelmed by the mainstream version, because the mainstream version, they've rebooted the Legion, I don't know, 8 or 10 times in the last 20 years, it feels like. I can't keep track of them. I know people who are diehard Legion fans who can't keep track of them. So if they can't do it, I'd rather have a book that can be a gateway book. Unfortunately, this book only lasted about 24 issues in singles. And as far as I know, this is the only collection which only collects like the first 6 or 7 issues. The only thing I might say, I gave it a 4 out of 5 because some of the artwork is a little bit inconsistent, but I'm going to show you a little bit of the art. On the left is art from the book. The first 2 pages, which is the character is Timberwolf chasing that alien deer thing, or goat or whatever. That's by Ethan Beaver. And then the small one, the first flight image is from Sanford. And Sanford actually worked on the book before Ethan. But still a good property, good artwork, either way. The only thing I really don't like about this particular artwork from Ethan in this scene is that it reminds me a little bit too much of an old X-Men scene from early X-Men when Claremont and Byrne were doing the book. And Wolverine, whom Timberwolf is sort of, who came first, who's reminiscent of whom. Wolverine was tracking a deer, and then Storm interrupted, and the deer got away, and she thought he was going to kill the deer, and he was like, "No, I wasn't trying to kill the deer." Stuff, and so in this thing, he is trying to kill the deer, and of course, it's a simulation program, but that it kind of reminded me a little bit too much of that scene. That's so something like that kind of might knock me down to a 1 star off. That's about the only thing I would really knock on that. Okay, the next one we're going to talk about is Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? And this particular issue is 97. They're on like issue 102 or 103 right now. The publisher is DC Comics. The writer is Shally Fish. Artists include Horacio Ottolini and Walter Carzone. That happens to be who's on this particular issue, 97. But they have various artists that rotate on the book. The genre is a comedy mystery adventures. It's been going on since 2012. And, I'm going to ask you straight up, have you been living under a rock for the past 50 years? Scooby-Doo is one of animation's most enduring characters, and so I think everybody who has ever watched cartoons in the last 50 years knows who this character is and what it's about. The writing is hit and miss on the book. I'll get into that in a moment. But considering what it's supposed to be and what the content is, it's a very reasonable choice for young readers. And I don't know if I can enlarge this or not. No, okay. Yeah, I can. Hold on a second. Nope, it's not working. I apologize. Cancel that out. Okay. Basically, they're at a bank in this, and Shaggy is asking for lollipops, which, okay, whatever. The bank teller says, well, usually we give those to kids. And he replies, no problem. We're always called a bunch of meddling kids anyway, so ask anyone. It's a cute line in a way, but it's also kind of, I don't know. For kids, it's good. For adults, it might be a little bit groan-inducing. So, stuff like that might give it a little bit of a lesser star value, I guess you could say, for adults. For kids, I think it's just fine. Our next DC product is DC Adventures, and there are 3 volumes. This is 5 stars. This is like the best Superman I've seen since '92. There's a variety of writers, but these particular books were by Paul Dini, Scott McCloud, and Mark Miller as writers. artist Rick Burkett, who also did the Batman Adventures. Um, I can't pronounce the gentleman's name. I think it's Aluir Amancio. I have no idea. Um, I Terry Austin inks both Rick and Aluir. Um, but it's really cool stories. These were released from 2016 to 2018 in trades, but this book was around 50 single issues, and it's been they stopped doing it. I'll get into why that in a minute. Geez, didn't know I was going to do that. Hold on a second. There we go. There's our first page. Men of Steel. Another page by Rick Burkett. Very funny storyline here by Scott McCloud. He hears someone crying for help, and the girl is actually just asking to meet him and to get an autograph. And then when he says leave, he starts to leave. She basically, because he didn't give her an autograph. Thanks for the flowers, honey. Doesn't exactly help. That's it's funny. Both the kids and adults can find humor in that. Now, that's some of the older stuff that DC's been doing over the years. And you can get that stuff, like I said, pretty much from any respectable comic book shop, bookstore, Ollie's. Now, those were books that were done for years in singles, and they had very low support from comic book retailers. Because they're gearing towards adult readers, not kids, number one. And number two, they're not looking at it because many of these stories were self-contained in single issues, which means you don't have to come back every issue and buy each individual issue. Keep going and going and going. And a lot of retailers don't like that. They don't like the spontaneity of just buying one and not having to commit to further purchases. So they have not ordered these books the way they should have and made those books their feature intro titles to new customers. And if they had done that, whether it's that art style, if that format had been properly marketed by retailers, there's a good probability that a lot of the comics that we see that readers complain about taking 2 and 3 years to tell a story because they're just constantly drawn out to fit into the trade immediately wouldn't be happening because we'd be featured on short story fiction instead of these writing for the trade format. So, I'm sorry, but I have to hold the retailers partly accountable for that. Now, I'll be fair. They've been kind of brainwashed, trained by Diamond and by the publishers to do that. But you got to break the brainwashing. You got to be better than that. Mm-hmm. And if we are better than that, whether it's Batman, Superman, Legion of Superheroes, Wonder Woman, any of these characters, same thing with Marvel characters, and I'll show some Marvel stuff in a little bit. You can market this stuff and get it sold to younger audiences. And you need to get your younger audiences in your stores because the rest of us are aging out. There's just so many people that are in their 40s and 50s and 60s that are aging out of the hobby because the modern comics that are being done by Marvel and DC don't appeal to us. And we feel like we're being left out and we're leaving. And our dollars are leaving as well because the retailers aren't having anything else to alternative. They choose not to have an alternative in their stores. So what DC is doing right now, however, is something else. And this is the stuff that was just in yesterday's catalog. This is the stuff that just came out. Okay. This will be coming out in February of next year. And it's Batman Tales, Once Upon a Crime. And it's by Derek Friedhoff and Dustin Nguyen. And unfortunately, they only give me the cover. Or they don't give you any interior, so I can't show you the interiors. And I didn't have time to look up Dustin's art to show you because they've done books like this for DC before. It's a good story, or rather a good art format that'll appeal to both kids and adults. But it's, like I said, it's coming out in early February, and they're doing an early solicitation for it. So if you're looking for Batman for all ages, talk to your retailer about this book and ask them for the Batman stuff that's been done by this pair in the past. They should have some of it in store. And you can make up your mind if you want to buy it in the future. Something else that they're marketing, again from yesterday, is a brand new catalog, is Shadow of the Batgirl, written by Sarah Kuhn and art by Nicole Quoth, or Go. This is about the Cassandra Cain Batgirl. For those of you who don't know, there are multiple Batgirls in the DC universe. There's like 3 or 4 of them. This is about a Batgirl that was an Asian, and I don't know if this is going to be the one that's going to be mute, or if she's going to have a voice in this particular thing or not. I don't know yet. But anyway, this is a new graphic novel featuring that character. Again, I don't really have Nicole's art to show other than this. They didn't give me anything to work with here. But it's something new, and it's good for, they say for young adults. I would say early teens and up, probably around 12, maybe a really mature 11-year-old, 12-year-old, 13 and up type book. Sarah, the author, has done some good prose fiction work with superheroines and heroines in general. And so hopefully we'll be able to do some new books with them. And I got another person on Facebook just giving me a thumbs up that I'm doing the show. Okay. Thank you again, Luis Diaz. But yeah, this is the new stuff that they're doing right now, and you can ask retailers about it and see if you can get some information on it. Look up the Nicole on Google, see if you can find her art. I just didn't have time to do it and present it for you. I apologize for that. And lastly is Atana and the House of Secrets by Matthew Cody and Yoshitani. Again, this is for kids. Zatanna, as a teenager, before she gets her magical powers, and she's learning her powers, but she faces off against the bully, and as you can see, she's carrying her pet rabbit with her. And it's an interesting cartoony style. And I'm hoping, that people will give it a shot because it looks fun, and comics are supposed to be fun. It's going to be on sale in February of 2020. They're just doing a pre-order now. Normally, these books should have been out a little bit earlier, I think. They're doing it 5 months instead of 3. Normally the solicitations are 3 months in advance. I wish these were all being out in December instead of February, because these would be perfect Christmas items to be selling. And I guess I have to be a little bit critical of DC for that they're waiting until February to put these out. But, oh well, nothing's perfect. And then in the more modern styles, we have Wonder Twins number 10. This is Xana and Jaina from the Super Friends cartoon of the 70s and 80s. For adults who remember those cartoons, and maybe the kids will remember them if you've seen them on Cartoon Network and reruns. Written by Mark Russell and drawn by Stephen Byrne. And it's going to be a 12-issue run. This is issue 10, so it's been out for most of the past year. It's not a bad book for what it is. I would probably give it a 3 to a 3.5 star rating if I was actually doing the book itself right now. But I haven't really sat down and reviewed it because personally, I'm not a fan of the Wonder Twins, but I think that they're a good all ages, or in this case, 11 and up book for kids if you want to introduce kids to the DCU characters. So as you can see, there is quite a bit that DC is doing. There's other stuff in there. There's Looney Tunes. There's other comic books that they've got as well. So there's really no no reason to say that DC isn't doing kid comics. They're just not the primary stuff that the retailers are marketing. And again, I think that's on the retailers. If you want to build that audience, you have to choose to build that audience. It's just easier for many retailers to go with the Teen Plus brand versions, and because if I can hook you on one book, I can hook you on 3 or 4 that are interconnected. And a lot of these books are self-contained, and they don't want a self-contained book that you buy once and don't have to buy anymore. So it's that kind of fight. And I'm sorry, but when you run a store properly, you need to be doing stuff that is self-contained for the impulse purchase, so that you can get not just your regular customer that comes in week after week, but you can get regular transients that come into the store. Transient is not the right word I'm looking for. Regular casual customers that will come periodically. If they're not going to come week after week and hold books and you don't want them holding books anyway. Most you comic retailers get mad when the people don't buy their holds for their pull boxes. And I understand that. I'm not saying you shouldn't be angry about that. But, the way you beat that is to get product that's going to appeal to general audiences that you can market to the general population in your communities. And a lot of the Teen Plus comics can't do it, not the way to format it. So we're going to go on to Marvel now, and we're going to show some of the stuff that Marvel is doing right now. On the left, we have Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur, Full Moon. This was a regular series or a mini series. This is a 280-page book for $12.99. It's ages 10 and up. I highlighted and printed it out a little bit more because the print on the scans were a little bit small for reading. A lot of people are going to complain about this book because, oh my gosh, it's the SJWs. It's black people. drawing. It's women writing and drawing the book. Ah, we can't have that. That's what's wrong with comics. Piss off. This is comics done right. This is the kind of comics that we should have more of and should be marketing more for our young audiences and as introductory characters into the Marvel universe. Another one would be Power Pack, which Marvel isn't doing right now. I wish they would. But we're talking about almost a 300-page book for $13. It's a very good value for what you're paying for. This book has won awards. This series won awards for children's literature for the age group for comics. And again, this is out in January of next year. So, what you can do is you can go to a comic shop and tell them you want to pre-order it and get a little gift card for your kid for the thing, put them in the Christmas stocking. And when it comes out in January, take them to the store and say, here's your gift card. You turn in the gift card for the book, I guess. I mean, again, this is a book that should be coming out like in November for December Christmas sales, not waiting until after the new year. That would be my criticism on with Marvel on this. Another one on the right is the complete collection of the wonderful Marvelous Land of Oz. It's their complete collection of stuff that they did by Eric Schanauer, who has done multiple versions of Oz comics over the decades. Very successful, very well known for it. It's 416 pages of story for $16. Most comics these days are $32 or 32 pages for $4. So figure it out. This is a great format, a great value for what you're getting in terms of amount of pages and story. Unfortunately, again, yes, it's next January when it comes out. But and this is a series that won Eisner Awards, which is one of the top awards in comic book industry. So, if you're familiar at all with Frank Baum's Oz books, and you want to introduce them to the kids and stuff, Scotty Young's art's a little bit kind of influenced more by the anime and trying to think of the word for it. Urban graffiti art styles. It's a combination of the two, and but it's actually pretty darn cool stuff. And for what it is, I wish I had some more pages that I could show you, but again, time restraints. I just didn't have time to show you everything on that. But and then this is more stuff that they're offering. This is a book that they're doing right now, new content. Marvel Action Avengers number 12. They've been doing it for a year, and this is a new thing that has the Avengers from the basically from the Marvel Cinematic Universe, more or less. And they're going up against AIM, which is Advanced Idea Mechanics, which is a villainous group, more or less. I don't want to call them a terrorist group, just a villainous group. We'll put it that way. And IDW is publishing it through a license, but Marvel does advertise it, and IDW advertises it both in both the Marvel catalog and the Diamond General catalog. So your retailer should have no problem, any comics retailer should have no problem being able to find this. And as you can see on the artwork, it says "Form for Incentive Information." The reason it says form, I did some merging. I merged the IDW logo on the bottom of the left corner. It's supposed to say C form for incentive information. What that means is IDW and Marvel are trying to get retailers to order this book and see your retailer form. So if you order X, what's the incentive? I don't know what those incentives may be. It might be a different discount break. It might be if you order X amount of copies, you get a special edition, something else. I don't know what that is. I'd have to talk to my retailer about that. But they are trying to get that book marketed to retailers. The next one is Marvel Action Classics, Marvel 2-in-1. Now, these are reprints from 10 years ago when Marvel was doing Marvel Adventures. They did a Marvel Adventures line that had like 4 or 6 different titles that were, basically all ages content by relatively new writers and artists at the time, but they were still people who had experience. They weren't complete nobodies. They just weren't the, so to speak, big gun talent, most popular talent around at the time. This has 2 stories in it. It's written by Paul Tobin and the artist is Alvin Lee. I don't know if that's Alvin's art or if that's David Nakamura's art on the cover being displayed there. I don't know for sure. The artwork was too small. I couldn't read the signature. But this is a reprinting stories that were printed in the 2nd and 3rd issue of Marvel Adventures Superheroes. And, it's fun there and in that respect because these were self-contained stories. And I know people who were, when I moved out here to South Carolina, I moved here in 2007. I had a friend of mine, John Norris, who does the music for this podcast. Thank you again, John. He loved this stuff. The Marvel Adventures line was his favorite stuff from Marvel at the time, and he's very disappointed when it went away. And I think it only lasted 2 or 3 years because, again, retailers were kind of not supporting them. A lot of the Dorkazoid fandom was like, "Oh, that's not the real Marvel. That's just stuff for nobody stuff, nobody artists, and just for kids. It's not what I want." Well, again, you can't be marketing just to the diehards. You've got to get stuff that's going to be marketing towards kids that they can get into the Marvel universe, and then when they get older and can afford the more grandiose line of products, fine. But you got to have an entryway book, and if you're not going to support the entryway books and market those, you're going to have a more and more difficult time getting new audiences engaged into your product line. And then we have another one, which is another reprint. And this is, again, unfortunately available in February. The writer is Delilah S. Dawson, and the artist is Fico Osia. And this is a 3-issue collection of stories from the Marvel Action Spider-Man series. 80 pages, $10. Normally, those books would be $3.99 each if you got the singles. So, $3.99 is $4. It's like $12 or $10. You're saving $2 to wait for the trade. But if you don't want to wait, you can go look. And as you can see, it says offered again, Marvel Action Spider-Man: A New Beginning. That's an earlier collection of earlier issues. But there's a good possibility that if you go to a comic shop, that some of these books will be available in the back stock if you don't want to wait for the trades to come out. They might even have the first trade, Spider-Man: A New Beginning. But either way, it's there. And there's no reason to discredit that and say it doesn't exist. And unfortunately, there's just too many fans out there who tell me that there's nothing there for kids and there's nothing there for other content, and it's just not true. And this is just some of the stuff that Marvel does. This isn't all of it. There's a book that they did called Spidey that was drawn by Nick Bradshaw. Absolutely gorgeous artwork. Let me see if I can Google that up real quick. Mm-hmm. And I mean, some of the most gorgeous artwork. I don't know if I can. Let me see here. That's not doing it. All right, that figures. Nope, not gonna let me. Figures. All right, not a problem. I'll keep looking. Find a good example of his work. Um, that's Amazon stuff too. You can find the Spidey stuff on Amazon real fast because I'm looking at it on Google right now and it's on that. But let me see here. Maybe I can get good artwork here. Yay! Just give me a second and I'll have that for you to see. Okay. I will now share that with you. Sorry it took so long. Whoops, wrong thing. Thought I could share it. It didn't want to. That's annoying. There they are. Just being silly about this. Okay. I'll figure it out. Again, I apologize. There we go. Let's see if I can. Oh, it doesn't want to. There we go. I'm trying to get it to enlarge and it won't enlarge. I apologize. But that is the cover for issue number 1 of Nick Bradshaw's Spidey. It came out a few years ago. I think that was, let me see, that was 2016. It was written by Robbie Thompson. Like I said, beautiful artwork. Just love the stuff. Here's another page from it. He's facing off against Dr. Octopus. The guy in the corner with the highlight flaming around his head is actually Peter Parker's with his spider senses going off. And that's him taking out, he's changed into his Spider-Man costume and now is fighting Doc Ock. I wish that they could do these in just 1 issue, maybe 2 issue storylines regularly with something like this. I think and make that their regular introductory format for Marvel or DC. Stuff like this would be, and make that your primary book to market instead of a secondary or tertiary title. I think would be a whole lot better for the industry in the long run. But they just don't seem to want to do it that way. They want to do the never-ending saga, reboot this, retell that kind of stuff, and I just, it's not working, folks. But this was a really good book, and Nick Bradshaw really killed it on this artwork. And if I was gonna, get a kid interested who's watching the Spider-Man movies with Tom Holland, I think that's the guy who plays the current Spider-Man in Far From Home and Homecoming stories. This would be the book I would probably recommend for him. So there you go on what Marvel can do when they put their minds to it. So as you can see, there is plenty of stuff out there from both Marvel and DC that can be marketed for younger audiences, Mike and others who have said time and again that there's nothing for kids today from Marvel and DC. They're only gearing for, 20 somethings and up or something. It's not true. So we're going to take a little bit of a break. And what we're going to do is we're going to let you guys either ask me questions if you're out there watching. I don't see anyone in the room tonight. It says only one person watching, unfortunately. But that's probably because a lot of people are out in the road, on the road rather, not in the road, at conventions. So I understand that. And I know there's at least two people who are working tonight that regularly watch the show for other reasons. They do band work or they're doing theater work. So that's why they're not watching. But yeah, we're going to get into the reviews of the independent stuff very shortly. I just need to take a quick restroom break, and I will be right back. I apologize for the delay. And in the meantime, we will and if you want to send me reviews of comics, you can send digital comics copies. And if you want to send me physical copies, you should email me and I'll give you that information when I get back. And I am back. And that gives you guys who are asking me to cut short, you could have cut out right there and come back to watch the rest later. In fact, after the questions, the Q&A session, you could have done that as well. So maybe that would be a different thing. Maybe I'll just do questions and then do reviews as a separate thing. I don't know. From that format situation where people were saying that I was running a little too long. But anyway, we'll continue with the reviews, and we're going to talk about the independent stuff now. We're going to start with Astronaut Academy, book 1 and 2. And those are $9.99 a book. Publisher is First Second Publications. The writer artist is Dave Roman. I'm going to cut this off for just a second for that, so I can actually show you the physical books. Yes, I do actually read the books and have the books. One of the reasons I cut this off is because you can see this is a very shiny, reflective surface cover. And I kind of neat that way. And it didn't show like that in the scan, because when I tried to scan it, it didn't work that way. So I went on Google and got the images for the covers. But this is what they actually look like. They're very shiny, reflective cover for issue or volume number 1, which is Zero Gravity, and then gold version for Reentry. And you're wondering what that red light is. That's my microphone saying it's on. Yeah. So again, these are from First Second, and I'll go ahead and put that more information back on there. The first book, which was a silver book, Zero Gravity, was originally released in 2011, and the gold book was offered in 2013. Still out there. You can get them on Amazon. You can get them pretty much on order from most bookstores. If you're interested in it, email me. If you can't find it online, email me. I'll give you the ISBN numbers. I'll be happy to. But anyway, this character is about. This is kind of like your typical science fiction Harry Potter of a sort. Hakata Soy. He's a new student there, and he has lots of misadventures. It's cute stuff. And he has problems with the most popular girl in school who wants to embarrass him. His roommate's a total jerk, pulls pranks on him, has a robot duplicate that's on its way to kill him. It's just a really fun anime style of kid art that I would go at least 7. I might even go as young as 5, but it's supposed to be for 7 and up. So I'm really very, very pleased with these. This is one of my favorites. So I don't know why I didn't give it 5 stars off the top of my head, but we'll give you a little bit of interior art there. This is written and drawn by Dave Roman. And you can see the evil robot guy that's after him. Whoops. I'll get you a quick brief there. So what I will do is I will give you a stop and show you some more of the artwork. Dinosaurs on wheels. And on people riding lizard back. The courses. It's very much a kind of a kiddie American manga type stuff, but it's fun. It's an enjoyable light romp that kids can breeze through. And that was from the first issue. Um, you know, when if your kids like Harry Potter, this is the perfect thing to get them for. It's Harry Potter in space. Without, he doesn't have magical powers, but he has his friends and he has other things going on that are fun to read. And it's his adventures at school. And I can't really recommend this one enough. And actually, just the publisher, First Second, they have a huge line of stuff that is very kid friendly. Stuff from oh geez, let me look his name up real quick so I don't mispronounce it. Kazu Kabushi. Um, um, he's done a lot of stuff with his company Bolt City Productions and First Second. He's done the Explorer and Flight Comics anthologies. Pardon me. He was nominated for an Eisner Award for his webcomic Copper, which was collected in print volume in 2010. Just a really amazing stuff. So anything by Kazu Kabushi, that's Kibuishi. Kazu is Kazu. But yeah, really quality stuff from Copper. Let me see if I can share some of his stuff. He's also done a book called Amulet. Let's see how many books he's got. There's the Amulet line, that's from Scholastic. The Copper line, which is also from Scholastic Graphics, which we'll get into a Scholastic Graphics book in just a second. Let's see. I'm trying to find. I could have sworn he'd done some other stuff with First Second, but maybe he was just with Scholastic. But there's other people that First Second supports, so you can look that up. But let's see what our next review has. Yes. We're going to talk about Atom Cat. Atom Cat is by Osamu Tezuka. Unfortunately, I believe he's passed on now, but he was a masterful Japanese manga and anime producer. Best known for Astro Boy, which is what you see in the blue background. I don't know if that's actually looking. Let me see. No, I don't know. But the kid behind the cat. And anyway, this is a collection of Atom Cat. And it's science fiction, animal hero, released 2013 from DMP Platinum Manga. It's about a young boy who's bullied by other students, and he reads Astro Boy, which was a very popular anime and manga series in Japan and over here in the States later on. who discovers an abandoned kitten and names it after the comics hero, Astro Boy, calls him Tetsuan. And they have an encounter with some aliens where the kid's vehicle crashes, and the aliens, the cat's going to die, and so the aliens rebuild him, but they don't know how to do it, so they make him part robot. And now the kitten has all the powers of the comics hero, and they have these crazy adventures. And I think that's awesome because people love cats, and people who um, like that sort of thing. Whoops, I don't know. Hold on a second. I thought I had something, and did I not do that? I did not. Oh, okay. That's fine. Again, I actually have the book. Now, this is a little bit different book than most graphic novels. This one you read backwards. And what does that mean? It means the front cover is on the right side of the book, or what Americans would consider the back cover. And you read it backwards, which is actually a traditional way of how Japan reads their books. They read from right to left instead of left to right. And so they, even though it's adapted into English, they kept it in the order page-wise like the Japanese comics. And the reason they did that is because a lot of manga translations that get translated into American, they have to invert the art and do other things with it, which changes how the artwork actually functions when you invert the direction of the art and try and put everything in. It changes the layout of the story, and it can break the intention of the creators for what they did for layout and structure of the story. So they do it they adapt it the proper way. But yeah, pardon me. I just love looking at this stuff. Trying to find a good thing. It's a little bit smaller book, but I want to find a good stuff here for it so that you guys can see the. Okay, and this is good part here. You can see there's another cat here that's striped, and then the little cat that's our little cat over here is Adam Cat. That striped cat is a demon cat, and he's terrifying the Adam Cat's family and trying to scare them into moving, so that Adam will have to move with them, and the demon cat can possess a girl cat that they're both interested in. Yeah, and the demon cat is using his magic to throw flames at him, and you can see the little jet boots and the paws of the little kitten, and he's fighting this thing, and he's tangling him up in webs, magical webs and stuff like that. And it's a cute little battle scene for cats. That's just a fun little thing about Adam and the cute little female cat that he likes. And there's other things where he's protecting. Here's another scene where he's saving woodland animals from a forest fire. A volcanic uh, ash forest fire. So, I really enjoyed this particular book, and I'm not a big manga fan, so if I like it, it's probably pretty darn good. So there's that one. Another company here, self-publisher, Fish and Chips by Steve Homaker. I see this is ages 12 and up. I'm opening the packaging so you can see the book. But this is Animal Police duo Fish and Chips, Jack Serfan and Val Dyer. And let me see if I can find I just want to check something real quick. Nope. Okay. Just wanted to make sure. See some of the artwork for that book. And it's more geared towards some people might say this is a little bit rough. That's why again, older people might who are more geared to the fancier, slicker styles might not like this. Whereas I'm kind of like, hey, art's art. There's a lot of good quality stuff in here. Nice quality line, weight, detail, the depth perception is nice there. These are the vampire gang that the heroes are going up against. Here's a cool thing here on the page here. Jaxer and our heroes, anyway, trying to get situated. There we go. You can see the fish guy is in his little tank, and they're at a diner having lunch. And now, why that's funny is, as you can kind of see here, he opens his top part and throws it in like fish food into the top of into his water tank, like you would have fish food. And I thought that was kind of funny. And they're just having their conversation, eating. Cute little things like that I think are very clever and well done, well thought out. And it's just well done product. I mean, it may not be the most fancy art style that you've ever seen. Um, I don't remember who did the cover on this because it's not the same. Let me check real quick if I can. What it says. Cover art's by Jeff Smith, which, of course, for those of you who don't know who Jeff Smith is, he's the popular uh, comic artist who created the very successful children's comic Bone, which I would definitely share with you if I had any copies with me, but I don't right now. Bone, if you don't know what Bone is, look up Bone comic by Jeff Smith on Google, and you'll see one of the most seminal series in the last 20 years. It's almost a gimme on that. I feel like I almost don't need to tell viewers about Bone, but I realize that there are some people who might not know. So, look it up. Our next one that we're going to review is Space Dumplings by Craig Thompson with colorist Dave Stewart. This is a Scholastic Graphics book, released in 2015. It's about a young girl named Violet Marlock, and her father gets captured by some people, and she has to go find her friends and save her father. 7 and Up, thick book. I don't even know if this thing has enough pages. It doesn't tell you how many pages are on this thing, but it's a massive book here. You can see quite thick. This is a trade paperback. It's probably a good half an inch thick to 3/4 of an inch thick. Let's see. Oh, yes, over 300 pages of story. Yeah, the epilogue is 304, so over 300 pages of story. Just incredible artwork. Where she's out at the space station eating, where dad goes missing. And Violet and her mom get attacked by something when her dad goes missing. They're called gigliobites, and the monsters that are attacking their home station. And they manage to chase off the enemy. And that's when they find out that her father is missing. And she decides to go on her own. And go hunting for him. This way. She says this sucks, and the machine that's there tapes her mouth shut with duct tape. And then there's an alien that says, "What the fudge?" And the robot cleans its mouth with a soap. So definitely for kids. That's how she meets all her friends that are helping her on her quest. It's very solid consistent art throughout. Beautiful colors by Dave Stewart. Really makes the pages pop. Uh, Wonderful graphic production values. You can't really tell just to look at it. Yeah, you can. You see that reflectiveness on the cover there. That's because the actual logo is embossed and raised off the cover. Uh, and we hear about certain people who think they're hot shots, who are having problems getting their books produced and out to their customers because, oh, I had a silver embossed cover. I didn't have a printer that knew how to do it. Well, Dave Roman managed. I didn't know how to do a lenticular cover with special editions. Well, Craig Thompson and Scholastic Graphics managed. If you're so great, so talented on your own, why didn't you learn something from what other people did and ask them? You wouldn't be 6 to 8 months late on your books that you were funded 2 years ago or a year ago. Not impressed with you, Comics Gator haters. You know who you are. But yeah, I love this stuff. And this is kind of funny at the end of the book. We've got a really cool space scene, and you see that little thing in the corner there. Well, that's because the monsters are eating space. And then, of course, there's the epilogue, and I'm not going to get into that. But a really cool, fun story. And I really think that this is one of the fun things about it. And the funny part of it is, the guy who did this book, Craig Thompson, basically made this comic because of a real life little girl named Violet. And it's one of his friend's daughters. And it's about her adventures. So, yeah, definitely get this book, Space Dumplings, from Craig Thompson, Scholastic Graphics. Now, go ahead and share that information once more with you. And our next. Oh, here's some more fun pages that you might want to look at real quick from Space Dumplings. This is when she's with her father, learning how to drive a spaceship. And of course, now that her father's missing, she's now learning she can now drive her own ship. But that's the next one we're going to talk about now is Star Drop. This is books 1 through 3. Book 1 and 3 are $9.95. Book 2 is $12.95. It's a little bit longer, thicker book. Publishers iBox Publishing. The writer artist is Mark M. Oakley. It's genre science fiction. These 3 books were released over 2012 to 2017. Ages 7 and up. Simply put, Adventures of an Alien Princess who has come to Earth to escape the pressures of her life. And we'll start with When on Earth, the first book. And again, here we are. Nice production, nice thick, nice slick cover production. It's black and white like the other, like some of the other books. This is actually a web comic that has been collected. He was doing this comic up in Canada. Mark is a Canadian artist. I don't know. She doesn't show exactly how she got to Earth. She just kind of shows up on a train and ends up in some rural town in Canada. But I'm letting you read some of that because you need to get the kind of humor that Mark does. It's hard to. It's not something I would deliberately try to explain. But wrong direction. Come on, come into focus, please. Come on, camera. Doesn't really want to come into focus tonight, and I don't know why. Odd. That's a bummer. Maybe I'll come back and do this one when I can get some good scans. I don't want to break the bond on these. These are really good condition books. But if you want to see the artwork, you can go to, and I'll type it in real quick. You can go to iboxpublishing.com. And check out his webcomic and see the actual book for free. And then you can order on his website at iboxpublishing.com. All 3 books. This is the 3rd volume. Have a place to hang my spacesuit. And this is the 2nd volume, Home in Time. And again, I do apologize. I'll see if I can get some. There we go. That's a little bit better. I don't know why the camera's having such a hard time today. I think it's just the lighting. Because when I put the books up, the lighting seems to be getting blocked a little bit. It's kind of screwing up with the camera tonight. Let's see if we can find another one. Yeah, that's what it is. It's the lighting situation more than anything else. But yeah, it's really cool artwork and stuff. And when you look at the bottom thing, it says Thieves and Kings. I don't know. Thieves and Kings. That's another series by Mark that was done before Star Drop. And that's also featured at iBox Publishing as a web comic that you can read for free if you'd like. And I think he still has trade collections or back issues of the Thieves and Kings because he did that in the 90s and early 2000s as a regular monthly comic. That was very successful. So we have been on for 2 hours, roughly, tonight. I think I've covered quite a bit of our web comics and our children's comics tonight. There's lots more where that came from as well. So, don't ever think that we don't have web comics or kids comics. I keep going back to web comics because of Mark there. But again, hey, there's web comics for kids too. So, I could probably do a whole episode on web comics for kids too. So, there's just a lot of stuff that I'm doing right. Oh, I had them in the wrong order. I apologize. Home in Time was book 3, and I'm gonna share the screen again with. There we go. You can see What on Earth is book 1. A Place to Hang My Spacesuit is book 2, and Home in Time is book 3. I cannot. This is like top notch, 5, 6 star stuff. So go ahead and make sure you check it out. Let's see if we got anything. We got one more book to cover tonight, folks. So we're going to do that real quick. Like I said, there's just so much that out there. I'm going to share it with you. This is The Stuff of Legend from Third World Studios. Mike Rake, Brian Smith are the writers. Carl Wilson III is the artist. Now these are omnibuses, 30 and $35. They're hardcovers. You can hear how thick that sounds, don't you? World War II era. Think Toy Story in World War II, where the toys have to save their child from the boogeyman. And it's like, what if Toy Story was written by Edgar Allan Poe? that would be my way of describing it. And here's the first volume. It's inch thick of story here. Very nicely done. Very, very quality high stuff. Probably about 300 to 400 pages of story in the first volume. The artwork is sepia toned, which means it's not black and white, but it's not full color either. And right away, the kid gets taken, his dog, you try to protect him, and the boogeyman throws the dog away, takes the kid. I mean, this is like the first 2 or 3 pages of the story. So it gets right into it right away. Really cool stuff. Second volume is a continuation of the story. And I recommend these formats, but there are other formats involved which are thinner and a little bit less expensive, but you have to buy 4 or 5 of them to get the story. But if you put the covers together, this one's the second one, this one's the first. You see it makes kind of a blended story. It doesn't quite exactly blur over, but you can see the face in the background in the red with the one eye there. That is the boogeyman's face. And these are the ones that are the bad guy toys trying to get revenge on the kid that abandoned them or whatever. And these are the ones that are trying to save the kid. And if you can't find it online, if your retailer says they can't get it, I would go to thirdworld.com. See if I can show you that real quick. There you go. Third World. TH3RD world.com. And see if they have any available. But they should still be available. It might be second, third, fourth printings. This has been a very successful series for these creators. This is beautiful stuff. Cannot recommend it enough. This is, again, like Star Drop, like Space Dumplings 5-6 level, star level stuff. You can't get better content. You can't get better comics than this out there from anybody. This is elite level stuff. So there's a lot of stuff for kids and a lot of stuff that parents can enjoy too. So I hope that we've covered kids comics over the last 2 episodes of QTR, and we'll be back next week with some other stuff. Since it ran over 2 hours, I'm not going to do the rant. I apologize, but I don't apologize because I can save the rant for next week. So until then, we will catch you guys on the flip side.